stories like the one she wrote several months ago about a guy who loses everything, drowns in his sorrow, stalks some girl, and ends up dying. This is our one clue that what Christina wrote actually came true with this guy Peter. Notice how this gold orb here and black one here look a lot like those pearls put in the host's brains. In a secluded cabin, Maeve looks as though she's meditating. We see her reaching for something as she experiences several flashbacks. One involves her and her daughter in the center of the maze, Hector, Clementine, and Caleb. But it's the Caleb stuff that is super interesting. We see the two of them infiltrating the facility that looks eerily like the one Serac and Liam Dempsey Sr. used to house early versions of Rehoboam. They plant explosives and Caleb is seriously injured. This looks like it could be deadly. So is this a flashback or a flash forward? Anything seems to be possible in Westworld. Her tapping into this energy short-circuits the radio and cuts the power for not only her generator but the entire town. A disruption that is picked up by a group of men sent over by William to track her down. Leading them is a man Maeve calls Colonel Brigham, who you may remember as the leader of the Confederados in Season 2. So it looks as though William has a group of hosts in the real world sent to track down and kill both Maeve and Caleb. Another one of these henchmen is Walter, who you might remember from Season 1. He's been sent to kill Caleb. Speaking of which, Caleb is back to his dull life of construction work. Remember how he had a robot buddy in Season 3? Well, robots seem to be nothing but scrap now after humans have won some sort of war against the machines. Apparently those riots we saw in Season 3 helped bring about the downfall of man's reliance on machines. Caleb also has a wife and child, Frankie, who we see here shooting tin cans, a metaphor for killing hosts. In the trailers, we see her as a host with flies coming out of her mouth. We don't know if Frankie has been copied or if his actual daughter is a host. I love this Banksy-inspired graffiti here that says, "My brain, my choice." It shows a robot controlling a human controlling a robotic drone. Maybe this is a hint that humans think they're in control of the robots, but in reality, they are the ones being controlled. Of note here is this scar along Caleb's face, something he did not have at the end of Season 3. There's also some cheeky dialogue here from Caleb's wife, who tells him,
"Enough with the cowboy talk."
after Maeve successfully jacktorrances Colonel Brigham, she taps into his memory to see who is after her. It's William. There's also an unknown man beside him who we never really get to see. Perhaps this is the senator Maeve makes reference to at the end of the episode. 7 years off-grid, Maeve finally puts a torch to her cabin and sets off in search of Caleb. Back in New York, Christina is startled when she hears a noise on the balcony, venturing outside to find a picture of the names. Knowing who ends up arriving at the end of the episode, it's a safe bet this was put here by Teddy. And totally unrelated, but I wanted to throw it out there, we don't know when these New York scenes take place. Could we be further into the future than Caleb's storyline? Westworld has been known to play these time tricks on us, just like they did with William's storyline in Season 1. Christina ends up going on a date with a guy who tells her, maybe you just haven't found the right man yet, foreshadowing Teddy's arrival. Christina also makes reference to the world being broken. On her way home, she is stopped by Peter, who wants to know why she keeps doing this to us. Is this us referring to humanity? He asks how she knew so much about them, which may be a reference to how Rehoboam knew pretty much everything about everyone. Whatever the case may be, it seems whatever she wrote ended up coming true for him, and this will result in him taking his own life in front of her. But before we get to that, he attacks and cuts her arm. But during the attack, Christina looks away for a brief second, and the man has disappeared, yet her cut is still there. If I were to hazard a guess, Christina was paused here while park operators handled the situation. In the season trailer, we see how people in New York can be paused just like the hosts in Westworld. Christina will wake up almost identical to the shot we saw earlier in the episode, leading me to believe she might be in a loop just like she was in Westworld. Caleb's wife is concerned about his well-being. His PTSD is so bad he sees threats everywhere, and now this is rubbing off on her daughter. She even believes that he misses war and that his life here is too ordinary. This all hints at his decision to join Maeve and end this war once and for all. He won't be able to keep his family safe so long as people like William are coming after him. His wife says a pretty damning line of foreshadowing here.
"For him, that's just not killed."
So it'll be interesting to see where Caleb and Maeve's journey leads them. We know there is some sort of other park set in the 1920s or 30s, which I absolutely can't wait for. The final scene involves Christina talking about how she's searching for something to fill this emptiness inside her. That thing she needs just might be Teddy. Now, we haven't seen Teddy since Season 2, in which he killed himself in front of Dolores and accused her of turning monster. Just how he's come back, we aren't sure. However, I think this Teddy could have the final missing Dolores Pearl. Remember at the end of Season 2, Charlotte Hale, who was secretly a copy of Dolores, smuggled out 5 copies of herself. If you include the Charlotte who escaped, this makes 6 pearls to account for. Let's take a look at who has them. The Charlotte Hale who escaped Westworld, who would then transfer her pearl into the body of Dolores. A new Charlotte Hale, Martin Connells, Musashi, and Bernard. This leaves 1 left over. Now, to make things more confusing, the original 5 copies are all black, but in Season 3, Episode 3, we see the Bernard Pearl is what's called a hybrid with black and red mixed together. So either this was a simple production design mistake, or there's a lot more going on here that we simply don't know yet. We also saw Teddy in the Sublime, a result of Dolores uploading him there at the end of Season 2. With William seeing this tear at the Hoover Dam, similar to the one hosts used to travel to the Sublime, is it possible Teddy made it back from the Sublime? Likely not, considering Teddy killed himself to get away from her. Why would he be seeking her out? So that's it for this episode of Westworld. I hope you'll give this video a like and subscribe, and leave a comment on your theories below. Thanks for watching, everyone. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThingsStoryYT, and until the return of Charlotte Hale, William still alive, and a new part, Westworld Season 4 Episode 2 is here, and once again, I'm ready to break it all down. I don't waste any of your time, so let's get right into it. The episode begins in what appears to be South America. We are reintroduced to Clementine Pennyfeather, who the last time we saw her was in Jakarta, Indonesia. She and Hanario, working under Maeve's orders, killed the Dolores copy of Musashi and retrieved his decapitated head. Why take his head unless they wanted Dolores' pearl inside? Would they destroy it or keep it for other purposes? Arriving home, she's greeted by William, or most likely the evil host version of William, who's been hell-bent on tracking down Maeve and her compatriots. He asks where her old master is, a reference to how Maeve was her boss at the Mariposa Saloon in Westworld. Clementine isn't willing to give up this information and is subsequently killed. However, it's later implied a copy of her is made that now works under William's control. Meanwhile, Caleb and Maeve are on the road in search of William. Last episode, Caleb and his daughter Frankie were almost killed by Walter, a host you might have recognized from Westworld Season 1. He too was under William's control, so Caleb has left his wife and daughter to take down William at will. Caleb wonders why Maeve has chosen to come back now. She was living in isolation for many years. Why not find someplace new to hide instead of coming back to Caleb? Later on in the episode, we'll find out that Maeve's vision from Episode 1, in which she and Caleb infiltrate a base which housed an earlier version of Rehoboam, happened sometime between the end of Season 3 and beginning of Season 4. We see a vision of Caleb injured here, but we aren't sure how he got out of this situation alive. Caleb will later ask me if they're going to talk about what happened after the lighthouse. I can't help but think there's something more here than the two of them just getting on with their lives after this incident. Would I be crazy in thinking the two of them may have had some sort of romantic connection? They arrived at California Senator Ken Whitney's mansion. We saw this place briefly in Episode 1 when Maeve accessed the memory of Colonel Brighton. Maeve has the ability to control all sorts of technology, like this security camera. Her ability to do this has evolved over the past few seasons. There's no clear-cut answer as to how she got this ability, but we do know Ford had fiddled with her programming and that she had all her attributes increased in Season 1. Maeve shoots the senator, knowing that he is one of William's hosts. Same goes for his wife, Anastasia. During a battle with the senator and his wife, Maeve tries to shut down the senator's motor functions, but it doesn't work. Not until much later, that is. Maeve's reasoning for this is that William has introduced upgrades, but something feels a bit fishy here. While interrogating the senator, Maeve finds out that there are now 249 other such hosts out in the world. He goes on to call himself an emissary of the New World Order. That sounds a bit ominous. By going into his mind, Maeve sees the real senator was killed by William for not agreeing to his quote-unquote proposal. This is likely the approval of a new park in the state of California. The senator cannot, in good conscience, approve of such a park, especially considering his wife's sister died in the Westworld massacre. I'm unsure if this character is anyone we know. We also get our first appearance of Charlotte Hale this season. The last we saw her was in the post-credit scene of Season 3, in which she had a William copy capture the real William. A real William who apparently is still alive and kept in captivity. We'll get to that in a bit. Of particular note here is Hale wanting to keep the human version of Anastasia alive, saying that she is the perfect candidate for a new research experiment. Caleb and Maeve will later discover this human version has gone crazy in the barn, and Maeve says this really interesting line.
Which may have been him.
Could Hale have done something to her in this quote-unquote experiment? I can't really show it because a lot of my videos have been getting age-restricted recently, but there's this close-up shot of the blackest blood I've ever seen oozing out of Anastasia's head. It rides that fine line of, is it real blood or something else? But before she dies, Anastasia invites them to the opening night of Mozart's Don Giovanni because a, quote, old friend is anxious for a reunion. This old friend seems to be guiding these two along to a secret entrance of Delos' next park, where, when asked for their reservation, they've already been inputted into the system as Mr. and Mrs. Morgan. This is the Delos headquarters in San Francisco. They actually used a duplicate shot from the first episode of Season 3 here. I see you trying to save money, HBO. Deputy Assistant Attorney General for Counterterrorism Jim Navarro has arrived from the Justice Department requesting a meeting with the head of Delos. However, he's stonewalled by Clementine, who now seems to be working for the company. The CEO here is referred to as a he, and my best guess is that this is referring to William as CEO, with Hale secretly pulling the strings. Christina wakes up in the exact same pose as last episode and also that of Season 1, suggesting once again that she is in a loop and doesn't know it. We learn from Peter's obituary, an obituary I may add does not have a date of birth on it, that he had donated all his money to the Hope Center for Mental Health. But when Christina visits this place, she discovers the Peter Myers wing has been there for decades and is being torn down. I can see two explanations for this. What?
Happy Meal baru, semuanya nggak lebih dari 600 kalori.
Kalau nggak sekarang, kapan lagi? Bila perlu, sadar.
One, Christina has been in a loop for decades, similar to the one Dolores had in Season 1. She remained the same and kept going through these loops as William kept coming back to the park and kept getting older. The downside to this theory is it doesn't quite explain why Christina still has a scar from Peter when she wakes up in the morning. If decades had passed, it would be reasonable to presume this would have been fixed. Theory 2, the Peter that interacted with Christina in Episode 1 was some sort of copy of the real Peter Myers the Memorial Wing is dedicated after. This dead Peter had simply been going on his own loop over and over again, hence why he begs Christina to change his ending. On her way to work, we see the same homeless man from last episode talking about a noise coming from the tower, and it's singing a song with no sound. The only person who can hear his music are him and the birds. Birds we see dead